All right, here we go. This is going to be the study of genetics. Now, you've heard me say before, I'm not a real big scientist guy, so you don't hear a lot of scientists and me talking up scientists. But I told you there's always a few that really need to know for biology. Here is one. His name is Gregor Mendel. So whenever you talk about heredity or genetics, you got to talk about this guy because he is the father of modern genetics. So he started us out. We found out a lot of things he said were right, and a lot of things that he didn't know about that were wrong. But he is responsible, and that's why they give him the name Father of modern genetics. Now, when you study heredity, genetics, heredity, that's the study of how the traits that you get from your parents are passed on to you. You could say it's from parent to offspring, and the traits, we did a few of them in class the other day. The hitchhiker's thumb was one, and how you clasp your hands, so that was the other. Those are traits that you receive from mom and dad, but the traits don't necessarily have to be physical. They could be behavioral characteristics, your likes and dislikes and things like that. And so keep that in mind when we start the chapter in heredity to get into deeper genetics. Heredity is kind of a big word, I suppose, but it's just the passing on the characteristics from the parents to the offspring. And so heredity, we start with Gregor Mendel. Now, he's the guy that started with this, how the traits are passed from parent to offspring, but he used pea plants to do this. Now, he lived, he was a monk, and one of his duties was to tend garden. And so he figured out he was going to use pea plants because you could get 2 growths of pea plants, and so you can get a couple generations of pea plants. So he would study whether a pea plant was tall or it was short, if it had purple flowers or white flowers. He looked at the seeds, whether they were yellow seeds, green seeds, whether they're smooth or wrinkled. And so for years and years he studied peas. He self-pollinated the peas. That's what he's doing here in this. So he would cross 2 parent peas to knowing their traits, and then he would see what kind of offspring and what kind of patterns would develop from that. Okay, so keep that in mind. This is why he is pretty famous. Okay, now what you're going to have to get real good at, and it's very easy, are crosses, Punnett squares. Okay, if you can do multiplication tables in your mind, this should be pretty easy. And I'm going to show you, this is a monohybrid cross. Mono because really we're studying one trait, in this case, whether it's tall or short. Okay? And so anytime you do this, you always give the dominant trait, in this case tall, you give it the designation with a capital letter. So dominants are always capital, and recessives, or in this case short, would always be lowercase. Now, kind of jump ahead, dominant always masks the recessive. So if this one's present, you're going to see this. If this one is not present, then it's going to be short. So real basic, real simple. If you did a Punnett square, and let's say we had a parent, this pea plant, whatever you want, has a capital T, this one has a lowercase t, and then we cross it with another plant, and let's go ahead and give it the same genotype, because this is what these are. These are gene types, genotypes. And if you do a cross, you come down, bring that capital T down, capital T over. Capital T over, lowercase t. Capital T comes down, it's always first, and then little t, little t. So then if you look at this, kind of some rules. In this case, the dominant always goes first, okay? And so that's why you'll see the capital dominant T before the lowercase recessive. So this offspring, going to be tall. This one has a capital T, dominant T. These both had 2 dominant T's. That doesn't make it means it's going to be super tall, it's just going to be tall. And then this one here is going to be tall. This offspring has a 25% chance of being tall. And then here, there's no dominance, so that's going to be 2 recessive. That's an automatic short trait. Okay? So this is just one monohybrid cross. Now if I were here, this is where I would be asking you questions, but I'm going to do that on my return. Okay, but now you can also do another cross, which is called a dihybrid cross, when di means two. And so here's your two. So dihybrid cross means you're looking at two, which it could be tall and you could roll your tongue. That's just two traits. In this case, we're looking at P's. Okay, so we have this genotype for whatever it is, and this you're going to learn how to do. This is so easy. And so you're going to cross two parent P's that have a genotype or a gene type for whatever traits these are. They're identical. Look at that. Dominant with a recessive, dominant, recessive, dominant, recessive, dominant. They're identical. Okay? And so this is the hardest part, is teaching you how to segregate out things called alleles, which we'll talk about tomorrow. And then, you follow your rules. Well, there's capitals, and you can test it out. Where in the monohybrid cross you have 4 squares, this one here is going to have 16. Okay, so it's 4 times 4 is 16. So if you want to do 2 traits, you got to use something called a dihybrid cross. If you want to just test one, a really simple monohybrid cross will work. Okay, we also have what's called a trihybrid cross. This you will get to an opportunity to do for extra credit. Not difficult. It just, you got to sit down and devote 20 minutes to it, because that's how long it will probably take you. But it's a test you're testing or crossing 3 traits here, and if you counted them up, it's 8 times 8, so it'd be 64 squares. Again, not really difficult. It's just you have a lot of squares, and so you've got to bring a lot of letters down. It takes a while. Plus, we're gonna have to really make sure you are good with segregating alleles for that, which you will be. Okay, for your trihybrid crosses. And I think for today, I'm going to stop right there. Not a lot of notes to do today. I think we have to finish our crossword puzzles, so that's what we're going to dedicate the rest of the day for. And I'll see you tomorrow.